Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at the Flesh Eater Courts Army set. This was kindly sent as a complimentary review copy by Games Workshop and is a roughly 750 point army in a box, and also contains the data slates, or not data slates, but warscroll cards, the specific like cards for all your abilities, like your upgrades and enhancements and stuff, and then the book itself in a beautiful limited edition copy with what I think is maybe the coolest two-sided cover of all time, where you have Ushoran basically as he sees himself, and then Ushoran the way he actually is. This, I am such a stan for the redo on this faction. I think that this is probably one of the coolest grimdark explorations of an army set, and it really leans into these themes of like madness, of like depravity, and just the general grim direction that I think more stuff in Age of Sigmar Warhammer in general should probably go, with the idea that this is basically an army of the insane. These people have no idea that they aren't glorious glittering knights on noble quests. They think that they are most of the time enacting, you know, like or building a beautiful sort of kingdom. And what they're actually doing is eating people, being, you know, just the most degenerate cannibal vampires of all time, and growing more and more depraved in what they're doing in their giant royal feasts. So let's have a look at the army box. It contains, like I said, a legal 750 point army. You have the beautiful new abhorrent Gore Warden, which is like a flying abhorrent general. We have the Vargulf Courtier, finally not in resin, crawling around on the ground. We've got 3 Morbeg Knights, these beautiful, like, wow, beautifuls, I guess, in the eye of the beholder, but these wonderful reimaginings of these bat riding sort of ghouls. And then 2 units of 10 of the new Crypt Guard. The ghouls aren't being replaced. If you had a Flesh Eater Courts army that's basically based upon the old ghoul miniatures, don't worry, these are just a new enhanced sort of like they're slightly more footmen than serfs, right? These aren't the peasant farmers coming to fight. These are the folks who have some weapons and some training and stuff. So like a classed up ghoul with like command and stuff like that. And like I said, this adds up to roughly 750 points. There is tons to look at in here. We can see, of course, the lovely new Vargulf, just a single frame, or sorry, 2 frames to put the Vargulf together. On here, that's the abhorrent Gore Warden, and then these are the new knights on 3 frames. Each frame is a single knight. And then last but not least, we have the new guard, who all have halberds or not. So you can have them as like little footy fighty guys, or you can have them upgraded halberds too. 2 different ways of fighting with them. And then, like I said, it also comes with the warscroll cards and the bases. So still, I think they're 28 mil bases. I think I looked in here because I was curious as to what size they're on. No, they're 25 still. 25s for the small ghouls. They are, the big boy is on a 40, 75s, and 90s. So 75s for the cavalry, and then 90s for the Vargulf. And your Horn Archregent, or your Gore Warden's on this thing. And that's the box. So let's take a look at the book. Like I said, all of the warscroll cards that are in this book are reprinted here for your convenience, and then all of your magic items, so right, your enhancements and stuff are going to be in here. So like your abilities to take command traits, and just stuff you have to track game to game, including your spells and your prayers. So let's get rid of you. Whoa, I'll get you off screen. And have a look at the book. Like I said, this is the limited edition cover. So you get this cool 2-sided cover of Ushoran. The cannibal courts emerge from the shadows, hungry for both flesh and glory. And what he actually looks like, and this is, sorry, I don't think this, I think it's supposed to be Ushoran, but I love the fact that Ushoran has a giant crown. So this is probably just supposed to be like an archregent, or maybe the Gore Warden actually. But yeah, it is the Gore Warden actually. But still, an incredibly cool looking, like sort of duality. And that is reflected in the background and stuff, because we finally have a Mortark, I was gonna say Morghast, it's Mortark, for the Flesh Eater Courts, and it's Ushoran, the noble king, the carrion king, the summertime king. And his backstory is both tragic and cool. Nagash basically both loves and hates him. He always wants him to be under his thrall because he's so powerful, he's such a huge, like, monstrous thing, but he hates the fact that he's insane. He hates that he's not going to be able to contribute to this like sterile kingdom of the dead. He really wants him to be more under control than he is. And this is, I think they really have hit a sweet spot in this book in terms of both hitting the theme of this army adding cool new models, not getting rid of really anything that wasn't like a resin Vargolf for a new Vargolf. It doesn't make your resin Vargolf not right. It just means that you're getting a cool new model, like they're updating stuff, and then adding new things. Like they didn't get rid of the Crypt Ghouls, they kept them and still have the Crypt Guard as like an addition. So it's a good way, I think, of upgrading this stuff. And man, they just lean into the themes. I will go through and just, I think, focus mostly on the new units. But I will do some comparisons like new to old, just on my phone of like the warscroll cards for the various existing units. But you get a really nice amount of choices, and you get 4 Grand Courts that you can play as, each with their own sort of theme. There's like a monster theme, a cavalry theme, a infantry theme, and like a nobility theme, and or a big, not nobility, but like a bigger guy theme. And yeah, and they just, it feels really cool to see the story like enact on the table this way, but it's not overwhelming. It's not too much new stuff. And I really do think this is gonna be my new year, new army. I love these miniatures. We have sort of a couple new special characters, but a bunch of new like classifications of character. So we have like the Grand Justice Gourmet, who's a criminal. He's an evil lord that was sentenced to become like the judge and enact the laws. We have the different abhorrence. We have the Warscroll Herald, which was in the army set, the most recent army set that I think had the Crypt Guard in it. Or the Crypt Guard in it? He was the new model in that. I don't think they did Crypt Guard yet for that one. It was just ghouls. We have the Abhorrent Cardinals, and of course the Gore Warden, which is the new flying character. And let's talk about and get into the army rules. Of course, we get in this book all the descriptions of like all the different unit types and stuff, and the different throngs. Yeah, that was the Warscroll Herald. He was in the two-part army set with the whatchamacallit, the Lumineth Realm Lords. What a great miniature. Just a fantastic miniature. And also, of course, this includes the new, the Nightmare Quest box set. What is it called? The Huntsman, the Flaymaster, or whatever he's called. The dude who's one of the warbands, the Royal Huntmaster. Color section for all the new models. Oh, the Morbid Knights are so cool. I really like the Hallmark Crypt Guard. And just the fact that he's like playing the drums with like human legs. It's got a real, like this has a real Texas Chainsaw thing going on. And as I'm like doing all of this sort of grim, dark exploration, this could not have come at a better time for me. I'm so happy about it. So you have the Abhorrent Cardinal, the Abhorrent Regent, the new Knights, and then the big Gore Warden leading stuff around. And yeah, so here they are, the Flaymaster and the Royal Hound, so the Royal Hunt. All right, let's have a look at, man, I wish this terrain was for sale. Look at this. Oh, I love that it's like the inside of a giant ruined castle, and they think that they're like these noble superstars, but they're actually just monsters. And what a great pair up for fighting the new Cities of Sigmar stuff. Like, because it's the kind of gory horrors that you would, as a regular human, have to deal with all the time. And there's just piles of dead corpses. There's just piles of what they've been eating everywhere, and then the blood chalice, because like they think they're having a big party, and the humans show up to ruin it all, but also to take part and beef more food. Painting section, and then building your army. Okay, so just a nice overview of the process. Build your army. Choose a battle pack, choose a sub-faction, choose your units, and then finish up. So let's go through the battle traits. As you've probably already known, you can pick one of the 4 different sub-factions. It's going to be Morgaunt, Hollowmorn, Blisterskin, and Gristlegore. They all just give you one extra special rule that lets you focus on a certain unit type. You don't have to worry about these too much, which I like. And also, nothing's locked into these 4 royal courts. You don't have to be from that faction to get that stuff. Some people might be upset they've lost their favorite magic item, because I think previously you were locked into certain magic items and traits that were accessible if you took those things. I'll be honest, I like the fact that it's a bit simpler, and I just get a special rule. Like, I like that 3rd edition thing. It's just a trend in 3rd edition that's the way that you get your special crap, is that you pick that house and then you don't have to remember too much more. Deathless Courtiers, everybody gets a 6+ ward, because you're not wearing any armor. You're not even wearing pants for the most part. Noble Deeds, each time a friendly Flesh's Court hero successfully casts a spell, it's not unbound, you get a royal or a Noble Deed. If you do a prayer, you get a royal deed. If you kill a model, if you slay a model, not cause a wound, but slay a model, you get a royal deed. If you have 6 royal deeds, and you can never have more than 6, you start to unlock special abilities, and you can also spend them turn to turn to do stuff depending upon your type. So Abhorrents can spend them to do one thing, and then Courtiers can spend them to do other things. But for anybody, you get the Feeding Frenzy rule. Anytime you have 6 on you, any Fleshy Court units within 12, you get +1 attack to their melee attacks, because you basically are like proving yourself to be so royal and cool. But there's 2 things you can do. If you're a Courtier, you can muster guard. That means as a 1-to-1, you can return a slain friendly model that's from a Serfs unit. So Serfs is basically just like Crypt Ghouls. And I think the Court Guard are also serfs, but Crypt Guard rather. Pretty sure, yeah, they're serfs as well. Serfs is just Crypt Guard and Crypt. Basic boys, where are they? Crypt Ghouls. Next page, yeah, Crypt Ghouls. Yeah, also serfs. So you can get 1-to-1 for a noble deed, you can get one back, or for 2, you can get a knight's unit back. So you can spend 2 noble deeds to get back a knight, and knight includes all the mounted guys, but also remember your big boys, your ogre types. Like, that's the character one, the Courtiers. So knights include the Morbeg knights, so you get a 3-1 guy back there, or you can get back a Crypt Horror, who's a knight, or a Crypt Flayer, who's a knight as well. I think that's it for knights. No. The Royal Beast Flayers can be brought back though, because they're serfs, which is 1-to-1, which is very funny. And they can come back as well. And then that's the muster guard. So summon loyal subjects is bring a whole unit back. If you're in Horn and you have 6, you can spend all 6 to bring a half-size unit back that's already been slain during any point in the battle. And they can be set up anywhere in the battlefield within 6 of an edge and more than 9 from the enemy. And then before the game starts, you get to pick a delusion for that court. There are things that allow you to have additional delusions on top, like Ushoran can give you like a turn-by-turn, pick a different one and add it on top, which is kind of cool. But there are basically 5 of them. There's Royal Hunt, you get +1 wound against monsters. Crusading Army, +1 to run charge rolls. Defenders of the Realm, +1 to saves while you're contesting an objective. That's kind of cool, but your saves are already pretty low. The Grand Tournament, add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Court's heroes. They're not the general that made a charge that turn because you're all trying to show off. And then the Feast Day, the Feeding Frenzy ability applies to friendly Flesh Eater Courts that are within 12 of a hero that has 4 or more instead of 6 or more, which is nice because you just get boosted attacks. I feel like if you're going to have the double down one, take Feast Day all the time and then add the one that you need round by round, because these ones are more situational if like you're fighting a monster or you're running and charging, whereas just the being able to be boosted by having less points is going to be useful all the time. And then you've got heroic actions and monster rampages. So the heroic actions are a rousing oration. It's pick a friendly Flesh Eater Court hero and roll a die for each other one within 12 of them. So each other hero. On a 5+, they gain noble deeds. That one's, you're going to want to do that every round if you have a cluster of heroes together, because it just allows you to, again, get that boost going faster and trade that either in for getting guys back because they're going to die real fast, or doing your abilities. And then Sent to Blood, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Court's hero and roll a die. On a 3+, move D6 inches closer to a unit. And you have to finish more than 3 from the enemy, but closer to a unit that has any wounds on it already, because you're basically sniffing out blood. So it's like an out of activation hero phase move, which could be super handy. And then we got 2 heroic actions. We got 1 for the Royal Terrorgeist and Royal Zombie Dragon. And you get Delectable Appetizers is one of them. The names just kill me, I love it. Pick an enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 2 or less and within 3 of this unit and roll a die. On a 3+, they take D3 mortal wounds. Then for each mortal wound that you cause, you heal. So you have like a wound and heal. It's basically a stomp that heals the monster, which is pretty great. And then Blood Curdling Shriek, which is for your Terrorgeist. Pick an enemy unit within 3 of this unit, roll a die. On a 3+, subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of that unit until the end of the turn. They can both do them though. So even the dragon can do a shriek, which is pretty cool. I don't see any reason it wouldn't be able to. All right. Like I said, just like in most of the 3rd edition books, this is a vastly reduced amount of like command traits and stuff and artifacts. So less, but I like that better honestly because then they can be more valuable and actually compete with each other. For the royalty ones, you get Abhorrent General only. So you have Abhorrent Hero and Abhorrent General both get different ones. So your artifact power for your Abhorrent General. This general is not visible if you're more than 12 from the enemy, just invisible for shadow obfuscation. Feverish Scholar, you get +1 to casting rolls and unbinding rolls, and +2 if you have 6 or more heroic deed points, or noble deed points. The Master of the Menagerie, when you're using Summon Loyal Subjects battle trait, you can also do monsters with 6 wounds allocated to them. So you can spend 6 of your noble deed traits to get back an entire monster with 6 wounds on it. And considering that your monsters, I think, have like 16 wounds, that ain't bad. You're coming back with 10 wounds remaining. You're not exactly like weak. I guess you have 8 wounds remaining. You have 14 if you're not mounted. It can't be a hero though, so it has to be the ones that are just being not written. Nobility, so your Courtier generals. We got Stronger in Madness. You get +2 to your wounds characteristic and a 5+ ward while you have 6+ noble deeds. Cruel Taskmaster, sorry, not 6+, it's 6 because you get capped at that. Then Cruel Taskmaster, if the general uses Muster Guard, reduce the noble deed cost for each return model by 1, or if the cost is already 1, bring back an additional model. I think of all 6 of these, you just take that one. You take that one, and then you have Ushoran be your war master, because he can also be your general, because Ushoran's amazing, and he's like only 400 points. And then you just start bringing back knight units for 1. You just need somebody that's, you're always in that heroic action to gain traits. You put it on a wizard who's getting them probably by casting, and then you just keep doing Cruel Taskmaster to bring back your knights 1-1. You get +1 model if they would take it to 0. So like to bring a surf back, you just get an extra surf model if you try and heal that unit, or you get 1-1 points being spent to bring back whole guys. That is way better. And then Savage Beyond Reason, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon of this general is a 6, the attack scores 2 hits instead of 1. Then you get 3 instead of 1 if you have 6 or plus noble deeds. So honestly, Cruel Taskmaster, I like all of these. I like the Master of the Menagerie if you're gonna do a magic army, but Cruel Taskmaster and Master of the Menagerie are both tremendous abilities. Like, making yourself better is cool, but those two, recycling your units, I mean, standing on circles is literally the game in AOS, so anything that brings back stuff like that, bring back monsters and 3-wound knights fairly quickly is pretty cool. And then we got Artifacts of Power. So for your Pouring Heroes, you got Grim Garland. You're -2 for Bravery while you're within 9 of this model. Blood River Chalice, once per battle. Blood River Chalice, could you imagine a gross chalice? Once per battle, in the hero phase, the bear can use this artifact to heal 2d3 wounds. And then Heart of the Gargant, once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, the bear can use this artifact. And if they do, add 1 to the attack characteristic of their melee weapons for them and their mount. I don't know, -2 Bravery is pretty great. Healing is pretty great. I don't super care about these artifacts, to be honest with you. I like the command traits better. Noble Heirlooms, Courtiers only. Medal of Madness. Once your battle round, the bear can issue a command without a command point being spent. That one's pretty great. And the Treat is a general, so the range is 18. Flayed Pennant. You can reroll charge rolls for Flesh Eater Courtier that are wholly within 12 of the bear. That one's pretty great. And then Charnel Vestments, you gain the Priest keyword. Honestly, the Courtier ones I think are just straight up better than the Abhorrent ones. Because once per battle round, being able to issue like a free CP, that's amazing. And then, yeah, rerolling all the time within 12. If you are I don't have any guns army, rerolling your charges is pretty important. Especially for some of the units, because like the knights can fall back and still charge. And then your Spell Lores. So your Lore of Madness, you got Miasmal Shroud. For this one, you get to roll 6 dice, and for every individual pair that you roll, you get to unlock an ability. And they all stack. So the first time you roll a pair, you take a mortal wound, the target does, within 18 and casting on 6. If you roll 2, they're also -1 to hit. If you roll 3 pairs, they're also -1 to wound. So you can they take a wound, -1 to hit and wound if you get all this off. And if you cast on a 10 or more, roll 8 dice instead of the 6. You get Deranged Transformation, so you can pick one of your own units within 24 and cast this on a 6+. It has to be visible too, and they have to have a wound characteristic of 7 or less. Add 2 to their move and 1 of their wound rolls until your next hero phase. And if you cast on 10 or more, you can pick up to 3 units for that. And the last one's Crimson Victuals. You cast this on a friendly unit within 18 on a 6+. If successfully passed, pick an enemy unit within range of a friendly Flesh Eater's Courts unit. It has to be within 6, and they have to have 1 wound. So basically, you can use this on your guard and your serfs. You can cast this spell if someone's within 6 of them. They take D3 mortal wounds, and for every wound that isn't negated, the ghoul unit heals 1 model. So it's like they're just eating the corpses, and the guys are all falling behind. And if you roll on 10 or more for your casting roll, then it's 2d3 mortal wounds instead of D3. So it's like a damage and heal. So much of this is like damage and heal at the same time. Then your prayers, like this one, Bless This Meal. It answers on 3, has a range of 18. Pick an enemy unit within range that's visible to the caster. Each time the model from this enemy unit slain, you can heal a wound allocated to a friendly Flesh Eater Court unit within 6. So basically anybody, like pick a squishy unit that's got like a wounded monster nearby. Every time that unit takes a wound, that monster can heal a wound. Anything can heal the wound, it's just any Flesh Eater Court unit. The Summer King's Favor, it's answered on 3 in range 18. If answered, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Court's hero wholly within range and visible. Until your next hero phase, the hero gains an additional noble deed each time they slay an enemy model. That one's really cool for powering up. I would take a priest just for that ability, just so that you can jack somebody up to 6 to like bring back monsters or pop off that Summer King's Favor. Or if you're using Ushoran, just give it to him so you can always be sitting on 6. Because he has an ability where his range for +1 attack and melee weapons is 24 instead of 12. Which is great. So he's just boosting the entire army's melee attacks. Then you got Charnel Conviction. I don't want to keep saying carnal. I don't know. Charnel Conviction is a prayer that has an answer value of 3 and a range of 18. If you answer it, then pick a flesh eater court unit within range. They got a 5+ ward until your next hero phase. To make them all good at not dying. And then your mount traits for the zombie dragon, you can have a pestilential breath rend to go up by 1. You can have them go up in the sky, so they don't deploy. They drop down on end of a movement phase, not within 9. And then venerated zombie dragon, +1 to hit rolls for friendly courts monsters while they're wholly within 12. So basically becomes like a leader model, and it gives +1 to hit the other monsters within 12 of it. So it's just the other zombie dragons. The Roar of Terrorgeist can get +1 attack on its fanged maw. Its royal blood can bring back 2d3 wounds instead of d3. That's probably really good. And then Morbeg Swiftness, you can retreat and still charge. Honestly, the Terrorgeist ones are pretty great. The Fanged Maw, of course, still does mortal wounds, and horribly resilient, if you put on a character one, is amazing. And then retreat and charge is also amazing. All right, let's talk about Grand Court. So there's 4 of them, like I said. They each kind of juice up a different unit type. The Morgaunt one, give a noble deed point to each friendly hero, Morgaunt Flesh Eater Court's hero. At the end of the turn, they're controlling an objective. So a cool passive way of just standing on objectives and like powering them up. And it's any objective. So even your home base, like half of the table objectives. The Morgaunt is so good at, if you have that priest guy who's able to earn additional ones, you just sit him in the background, have him adding, like you just cycle them basically back and forth and have him do the cast that he gets more, and then put the double down on someone like Ushoran so that every time he does a slain model, he gets 2. Hollowmorn has Grizzly Cavaliers, +1 damage to friendly knights units when they make a charge move. So +1 damage on the charge, pretty great. Blister Skin, Pious Nobility, friendly opponents gain the priest keyword, but they cannot cast spells and chant prayers in the same phase. So even though they're wizards, they can't do both. And then Gristlegore, Savage Strike. At the start of your combat phase, you can pick a friendly Gristlegore monster on the battlefield, and they have the Strike First effect until the end of the phase. So the monster one, the one that makes you all priests, the one that makes your knights really good, and then the one that makes your heroes gain more noble deed points fast. Again, no restrictions, just give you a cool extra rule. And then Path of Glory. So the Path of Glory, of course, is going to be all like nobility stuff. Knights on a quest. You're going to pick a quest, try and complete it. They get cool veteran abilities like being hungry for flesh. I mean, that's, I guess, an ability. Be defenders of the court. So like if you do so, pick a friendly opponent or courtier wholly within 6 of this unit and have one of the save rolls, because basically your guys around you want to protect you because you're so good. And then your territories you can find are things like Pits of Bones, Charnel Dens, and Dragon Graveyards to take up a cool zombie dragon. And you're doing things like hunt monsters. Basically, if you can imagine something like Don Quixote would do, then your weird ghouls can do it. Let's talk about your match play stuff. So grand strategies, there are 3. First one is legendary exploits. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there's at least 3 friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes on the battlefield, and they all have 6 noble deed points. I don't love that one because you're going to want to spend these. Only like 1 hero or maybe 2 wants to actually hang on to them to up the attacks. Expand the kingdom. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if a friendly opponent is wholly within enemy territory, and the enemy general is not wholly within enemy territory. So basically, you've killed the general, and you're in their half. Defend the throne. You complete this grand strategy if a friendly charnel throne is on the battlefield. It is garrisoned by a friendly Flesh Eater Courts hero. There's no enemy within 6 of it. I think I like that one the best, to be honest with you, because it just means that you've got to have the thing you want anyway. Your free throne with somebody standing on it. You're already going to be doing that for the most part. So why not take it? And then battle tactics, duties of the court, scream to death. It's fucking fantastic. Pick an enemy unit in the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if the unit destroyed. This turn by attack made by a missile weapon used by Crypt Flayers units, Infernal Courtiers, or Royal Terror guys. Basically, if someone gets screamed off the table, you get a point. I absolutely love that one. It's like a cherry pick one. You have like a 1 or 2 model left unit, and you scream at it, and you do it. But you could set this one up. So I actually like that one because you're probably going to have a Terrorgeist in your army. Valiant Slaying. Pick an enemy monster on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit's destroyed during the turn by an attack made by a friendly opponent. Overrun. You complete this battle tactic if every enemy unit in the battlefield is within 3 of the friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit at the end of the turn. So just have like enemies all being fighting. You could definitely arrange that late game. And then a Glorious Feast. You complete this battle tactic if every friendly unit in the battlefield is wholly within 12 of a friendly Flesh Eater Court hero that has 6 noble deed points at the end of the turn. Lance Formation. You complete this battle tactic if 2 or more friendly knights units make a charge this turn, and the charge roll was 7 or more. And it's only 2 units too, and you can get a reroll charge banner, so I actually kind of like that one. And then Ties of Chivalry, pick an objective on the battlefield that your opponent controls. You complete this battle tactic if you control that objective. At the end of your turn, it's contested by at least one friendly Serf model, one friendly Knight model, and one friendly Courtier model. So you've got like a combination of units within range of an objective. You know what my favorite part of all these are? None of the Grand Illusions require you to complete 4 more of these. Oh, get rid of that in every single army book. Some of the army books require such specific army compositions to do their bespoke battle tactics. I'm so glad this book doesn't have that. Every book should just get rid of that as one of the Grand Illusions. No one's ever going to take it. These should be like secret sauce sprinkled on top of the standard ones each pitch battle season. They shouldn't be things you have to do. They should be accessible and opportunistic, and this book is written that way, and I'm really happy about that. All right, we're into profiles. So, like I said, we'll take a pause and look for differences in the ones that are the existing ones. I'm not going to bother with Nagash because I'm 90% sure they haven't changed anything with him. But let's have a look here at the new stuff. So starting with Ushoran, who is cool as hell, 10-inch move, 16 wounds, 4+ save, and 10 bravery. He hits like a truck. And remember, when he's got 6 or more points, he's going to have 4 attacks on, or +1 attack on all of his weapons. His 3-inch range scepter, 3+, 2+, -2, D3+3 damage. Consistent damage, like it's 4 to 6 points of damage per hit. It's amazing. It's gonna have 4 attacks normally. So you can auto attack or best day ever, and yeah, and hit like an absolute truck. The more wounded you get, his attacks go down, and his epicenter delusion allows him to pick an additional delusion, like I said earlier, and its range goes down. So like, he can add an extra delusion to your army round by round, and it starts at a 30-inch range and drops to a 12 at the end of the brackets. And then his monstrous claws and fangs have 10 attacks at the top, 4 at the bottom. I'm surprised he didn't do one of the things where he gets like a bloodthirster thing where he gets angrier and crazier, or have him like bottom it in the middle. Just would have seemed thematic. He can cast 2 and Dispel 2, and he's a War Master. Like I said, he's the Epicenter Delusion. Carrion King, he has a 24-inch range for his Feeder's ability, so when he has 6 points, everybody gets +1 in 24 instead. And then he's got the Shroud Cage Fragment, which is insane. At the start of the combat phase, subtract 1 from the Bravery characteristic of every enemy unit within 3 until the end of the battle. So you just get worse every single turn. Let's combine that with the other -2 one. Then roll 2d6 for each enemy unit within 1. If it's higher than their Bravery, they strike last. Holy shit. What an ability. He just slowly saps your will to live, and then, yeah, that's a shocking ability. That is a shocking ability, especially against like big multi-wound armies, like ogres. He kills like 2 ogres, wins combat because they don't kill him. They go down every turn in leadership. You do stack it with the -2 leadership from the other guy's crown, and all of a sudden they're losing like 3-4 miles because they're just ripping through battle shock tests. The King's Chalice, he has a 5+ ward, so his 16 wounds are insane, and also heals 2d3 wounds every one of your hero phases. So yeah, this guy is damn hard to kill. And then finally, Glimpse of Delusion, this is his spell, cast on 7, you can make an enemy unit pick one of its melee weapons and attack a friend with it. Alright, let's have a look at Abhorrent Ghoulie Kings and see what has changed here. So we're going Death, we're going Flesh Eater Courts, we're going War Scrolls. Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist. What's this guy got going? He gained 2 wounds, that's sweet. His Death Shriek, we'll see if it changed or not. Death Shriek's probably still the same. Roll a die and add the amount on the table. Roll a dice and add the Death Shriek value. Yeah, same thing. Death Shriek's exactly the same. It can fly, it's a wizard, cast 1, unbind 1. Yep. Fangmaw, exactly the same. 3-inch range, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -2 d6 damage. Yeah, this guy, it doesn't look like they really screwed with him. Oh, they put his skeletal, no, they're the same too. Oh no, his Gory Talons and Fangs gained 2 damage. So they had 1 damage before, now they're damage 2. That's nice. So they upped the damage on the rider a little bit. Infested, the same. Everybody takes D3 mortal wounds within 3. Royal Blood. Heals D3, Ferocious Hunger. Cast on 6 range 12. Pick a friendly Royal Terrorgeist within range. Real hit rolls for its Fang Maw. And then Gaping Maw, if you're hit with a 6/6 mortal wounds. Yeah, he's mostly the same. Let's have a look at the Zombie Dragon. Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Zombie Dragon. 2 wounds as well, gain 2 wounds. Did his brackets change? Oh, the brackets all changed just like normal. So he lost a bracket. He goes from 7 to 9 to 12 plus for his brackets. And the bottom out, there's no bottom. Basically the bottom bracket on this disappeared. The 13 plus bracket. His lowest move is 8 now. Pestilential Breath must have changed. Oh no, it's on this guy. His Pestilential Breath does not bracket anymore. It's just gone. But his move and his Swordlight Claws will change. Pestilential Breath just has a stock 12-inch range. So it gained 3 inches of range, that's cool. D6 shots now instead of 1. 3s and 3s, -1, 3 damage flat. Wow, they really glowed up with breath. That's pretty cool. Gory Talons and Fangs, same thing, damage 2 now. Snapping Maw, basically the same. Swordlight Claws, basically the same. Go from 7, 6, 5, 4. Cast 1 and bind 1, flies, still a mount. Still has Royal Bloods. Draconic Terror. Can't receive the Inspiring Presence command while they're within 3. There we go. That's new. And then Monstrous Hunger. They don't have Summon Courtiers anymore, but that's baked into the abilities of the army. So those are just gone. I assume that would be understood, but I probably should explain if people don't play this army or haven't played it before. Monstrous Hunger casts on 6 in a range of 18. If you cast it, friendly Flesh Eater Courts monsters wholly within range of the caster filled with the Monstrous Hunger, and you can run charge. All right, new guys. I love these guys. So the Grand Justice Gourmet, he's a 6-inch move, 6 wound, 4+ save guy with a bravery of 10. He has Royal Blood, so he heals D3. I mean, all of these guys have Royal Blood for the most part, except for the Courtiers. He can pronounce Judgment. In your hero phase, pick a following judgment to pronounce. The same unit cannot be judged by more than one judgment at the same time, so you have to pick one of these things. So it's Petty Transgression. Pick an enemy unit that's visible. On a 3+, add 1 to wound rolls for it being targeted by Flesh Eater Courts units. Dishonorable Conduct. Pick an enemy that's more than 3 from all friendly units. On a dice, a roll of 3+, then your units can charge even if they ran earlier against it. So basically, you send people out, they can run and charge if they're targeting them. Grievous Insult to the Court. Pick a friendly unit that's within 3 of a friendly abhorrent and roll a die. On a 3+, add 1 to the hit rolls for Flesh Eater Courts unit to target them because they've insulted their regent. And then Regicide. Pick an enemy unit that's visible to the unit and has slain a friendly abhorrent. Roll a die on a 3+ until the end of the turn. Add 1 to the damage of your Flesh Eater Courts unit that attacked them. So if one of your Archregents dies, you can call it the killer of the Archregent basically and get +1 damage against them. And he's not fighty bad. Like, he's got 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 D3 damage. All these guys are pretty fighty for who they are. His miniature, though, is just bananas. I love him so much. He's got a wig made out of human entrails. He's so great. And then the Abhorrent Girl Warden moves 12 because he flies, obviously. Has a 4+ save, 7 wounds, and bravery 10. Still a wizard, still Royal Bloods. He's got the Royal Hunting Party. Instead of setting them up, you can put them in the sky. And if you do so, then you can also put in Crypt Flayers or Morbid Knights. So anything with flappy wings that are also knights can go with him. And then they can show up more than 9 from the enemy at the end of a movement phase. And then Winds of Shish. Cast on 6, range of 9. And if you cast it, pick a friendly Flesh Eater Court unit that can fly. And take them away from the battlefield and put them back up basically in strategic reserve. All right, Archregent. Did you change at all? Let's have a look at this foot Archregent. He is looking pretty much the same, except he got damage 2 on his attacks. I'm not surprised by that, but they dropped his attacks from 7 down to 5. Still a wizard, cast 2 on bind 2. Still has Royal Blood, still has Countless Servants. At start of your phase, you can return up to 3 slain models to 1 friendly surf unit within 18 or 1 knight. And then Carrion Call, cast on 6. Successfully cast in the following movement phase, friendly Flesh Eater Courts units that are set up at the end of the movement phase can immediately move D6 inches. I love that. So you can combine that with the Gore Warden, and anybody who arrived kind of like from reserve can make a D6 inch move, so it makes it easier to charge. That's a great combo, those two. And then the Abhorrent Ghoul King, if you're not using the guy in the back of your zombie dragon. He is not an Archregent, though, remember. He has the same core stats. He gained damage to his attacks, but lost an attack, though. Royal Blood, still cast 1 and bind 1, has a Code of Honor. As part of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within one of this unit and say that it will duel the enemy hero. If you do so, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's melee weapons, but they can only target that hero. So you can go to damage 3 if he's fighting another hero. And then Unnatural Speed, cast on 6, and if you cast it, this unit can immediately attempt a charge, and you can roll 3d6 for that charge. And if it's successful, the strike first ability applies to this unit until the following combat phase, or in the following combat phase. Sweet. All right, let's have a look at the important cardinals. This is another new guy. 5 wounds, 5+ save, bravery 10. It's got 3 attacks. Again, it's just sort of like core fighty like stats. 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 d3 damage. It's got royal blood. And you can speak in tongues. This is prayer. Cast on 3 and has a range of 18. If you answer it, pick an enemy unit within range visible to the caster. To the next hero phase, roll a dice each time you do a command. On a 4+, it has no effect. He basically just makes the commands not be heard because he just jibber jabbers at them, which is amazing. We've already seen the warscroll herald, but I think he's got a bit of a... He might be the same. I think he's mostly the same. I didn't notice any difference with him. But I'm going to double check because I can, because of technology. He isn't in here for some reason. Oh, even though he's out. Wow, weird. So he's got a 6-inch move, 5 wounds, 5+ save, and bravery 10. He's got 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. I think it's mostly the same. He's got the King's Entreaty. At the end of the charge phase, you can pick an enemy unit within 3 of this unit and say that it will offer them an infected bone. And if you do so, your opponent must choose whether to accept or refuse. If it refuses, the strike first effect applies to friendly flesh eater courts units within 3. If it accepts, the enemy unit becomes infected. And for the rest of the battle, roll 2d6 before an infected unit issues or receives a command. Cast a spell or chant a prayer. Make a roll before the action's carried out. And if it's greater than their bravery, they just can't do it anymore. So, yeah. You can either have strike first, or you can be like screwed from doing a bunch of your things for the rest of the game. And finally, don't shoot the messenger. This unit is not visible to enemy models while it's wholly within 6 or 5. So 5 or more friendly flesh eater courts models. He just disappears into the crowd. And we got the Royal Decapitator. He's got a couple different head options, which is kind of cool. He's got core stats kind of the same as all these guys. 5 wounds, 5+ save, bravery 10. His axe is a bit better at fighting because it's flat damage 3. And then he's got the Executioner's Entourage. In the combat phase, after this unit's fought for the first time in this phase, you can pick a friendly serfs unit that's not yet fought in that phase, and within 3 of the enemy, and wholly within 9 of this unit, and they can fight immediately. So basically, you can chain activate them with serfs. And then off of the head, at the end of the combat phase, if any wounds caused by these headman's axe in that phase were allocated to an enemy hero, roll 5+, they're dead. Because you cut their head off. You just removed their head. Now, we're on to the Courtiers. Start with that Cryptcast. Still just 4 wounds. Of course, that's looking the same. He's gained 2 attacks, so 4s and 3s, -1, but D3 damage now. So his potential damage went from 3, 4, 5 with his Bone Club and Filthy Claws to just 5 flat attacks now that could potentially do 15 damage, which is a big improvement. And then because the core ability now to like heal with the nobility points has replaced like his healing ability, he has Marshal of the Peasantry. In the combat phase, after this unit has fought for the first time in that phase, you can pick one friendly serfs unit that hasn't fought yet, that's wholly within 3 of the enemy, that's wholly within 9 of this unit and 3 of the enemy, and they can fight immediately. So you get a chain fight basically for your serfs. We got the Vargulf Courtier. His core stats are pretty much the same except his save went to 4+. So he's got a slightly improved defensive ability. And his claws gained 1 attack, so 2-inch range still, but 5 attacks instead of 4. Still -1, 2 damage. And his dagger-like fangs are identical, but flat 3 damage instead of D3. He's the King's Champion. At the start of the combat phase, you can say that this unit will use this ability. If you do so, you get 2 extra melee attacks in your melee weapons, but you can only target units that have a characteristic of 1 or 2 and do not have a mount, so you can only beat up on little guys. Then you got Bounding Strides. When you move, you don't fly, but you count as if you flow for passing across terrain, not models. And then Victory Feast, the end of the combat phase. If you kill anybody, you can heal D6 wounds allocated to this unit. In addition, at the end of the combat, you can immediately retreat. So he can always fall back, which is pretty cool, at the end of the combat phase, and then he can heal as well if you kill somebody. All right, the Crypt Infernal. He's stayed the same core stat-wise. Can fly still. He's gone to an extra inch of range on his Fetid Breath. It's also 4 attacks now. 4s and 3s, -2 D3 damage. That's a big shooting improvement for him. And his Skewering Talons are identical. Still -1, 2 damage, 5 attacks. Oh, but they gained an inch of range. They're range 2 now. Then he's got his mind-shattering cacophony. If any enemy models are slain by wounds caused by his fetish breath, until the end of the phase, add 1 to the damage for missile weapons used by crypt flayers wholly within 9 of this unit. The same crypt flayers can't benefit more than once. So basically, the dudes he's leading are going to get +1 damage on their breath. But he doesn't count as a crypt flayer, so you couldn't have it count for another guy. And then the crypt haunter. Core stats are still the same. His club is still flat 3, but he's got rancid talons and the club combined now. So they're all with the club. So instead of having 2 attacks that only damage 1, he's got 5 attacks that are all damage 3. So his damage potential went from it looks like 11 to 15, which is pretty cool. He's got noble blood, so you can heal D3 wounds in the hero phase, and then knightly retinue in the combat phase. After this unit's fought in the first time, you can chain activate with crypt horrors. And then crypt guard. So this is the new battle line unit. 5+ save, which is pretty cool. They've got 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 damage. So they're like a reliable hitting unit instead of that 4s and 4s and no rend. This is a pretty blendery unit, and a 2-inch range is significant. You get a crypt captain with an extra attack, a standard bearer. You have the number of models that flee from battle shock tests, and then a drummer adds +1 to run charge rolls. Then you get your Armory of Madness. If any wounds caused by this unit's attacks are allocated to an enemy unit, that enemy unit cannot issue or receive commands until the end of the turn. Whoa. That's automatic. There's no defense against it. That's so good. And then Royal Bodyguard. This unit has a 5+ ward in addition to its 5+ save. In addition, add 1 to ward rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Court's heroes wholly within 3. So they get a 5 ward instead of a 6. And it's not non-monster heroes, it's anybody, which means Ushoran has a 4+ ward when he's near these guys. He's got 4+ wards, 14 or 16, I think it's 16 wounds, and then 2d3 heals every hero phase that's his. Whew. Yeah, and these are battle line. If you're playing a Morgus, what is it? The battle line if you're playing a Morgaunt army. No, wait, that's the Knights. Crypt Guard if you're playing a Hollowmorn army. All right, the Knights are 3 wounds, 12-inch move, 4+ save. They can fly because they're riding bats, obviously. Remember, these can be taken as a Morgaunt army, and then they get +1 damage on the charge, too. So the Lances, 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage on the charge if they're from that Royal Court. And then the Vicious Teeth and Claws on the Riders. This is where the actual power comes from. 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. And remember, all melee weapons get +1 if they're currently freaking out because of the nobility points. Champion gets +1 attack with its Grizzly Land. Standard Bearer makes the whole unit count as 3 models each for the purpose of contesting objectives, which is pretty cool. And then +1 to run charge for the Musician. They have the Shrieking Charge ability. After this unit makes a charge move, you can pick an enemy unit within 1 of this unit. That unit cannot unleash Hell. In addition, roll 1 dice for each model in that unit. On a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. Model in this unit, sorry. It's not. Imagine you ran into 29 goblins, and every 4+ is D3 mortal wounds. The unit would just explode. No, it's for the unit, for the Knights. How many Knights there are, and then they can always retreat and charge with Predator's Pounce. That's a great ability. All right, Crypt Flayers. Did you change it all? So they also got an inch of range on their death screen, which is pretty cool. Weirdly, the shooting, while still like this is an almost no shooting army unless you have Terrorgeists and the Flayers, the shooting is kind of significant now. The range going up is a big deal. Let's have a look at Crypt Flayers. You guys have the same core stats. 4 shots, 4s and 3s, -2 on damage. It's the same for your scream, but it'll go to 2 damage if someone screams first. If one of the Courtiers screams first, then your piercing talons are still 1 damage. Yep, almost identical. Champion gets extra attack. Death Scream, add 1 to wound rolls if their bravery characteristic is 6 or less. And then Escort Courtier. When you pick this unit to move in the movement phase, you can pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater's Court hero that has a wound characteristic of 7 or less that cannot fly and that's wholly within 3 of them. Basically, they get placed within 3 of this unit after they move, but outside of 3 of enemy units. So you can carry the little guys with the Crypt Flayers, which I think is a really cool ability. But, I mean, it's one they already had. And then Crypt Horrors. Still have Noble Bloods. They can heal D3. Still have Chosen of the King. rend of the Courtier. Their Courtiers within 6 of them are 18 within a Barrett's and get the rend to go up. Core stats are the same. And is the Septic... No, that's new. So they have a Septic Club Warrior Elite. If the unmodified wound roll for an attack made with a club and Septic Town is 6, it has a damage characteristic of 3 instead of 2. That's pretty cool. So they have a damage boost if they manage to get 6s. Critical 6s to wound. And let's have a look at basic Crypt Ghouls, our basic battle line boys. They are, I think, identical. They haven't changed at all. Boundless Ferocity looks like it's the same. Yep. Unmodified hit rolls for 6s automatically wound, and 5/6 if they have 20 or more models. Champion gets extra attack. Royal Approval, the run goes up by 1 if they're wholly within 9 of a Courtier or 18 of an Abhorrent. Yeah, exactly the same. Royal Beast Flayers, this is the Warcry unit. 6-inch move, 1 wound each, 5+ save. They're basically almost the same as the Royal Guard, except their abilities are different. The 4s and 4s, 1 damage for the basic guys. Hunting Polearm on the boss. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 3 damage. So it's hitting hard. And the Hounds are 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. So they have like a screen of like the basic guys, but then the core fighters, the leader and the 2 Hounds, actually hit quite hard. They have Awful Hounds. 2 in every 10 can be Awful Hounds, and they have 2 wounds each. And the Royal Flaymaster can issue commands to their own unit. They have Hunter's Instincts. Enemy monsters in 3 cannot carry out monsters' rampages. In addition, reduce the damage characteristic of the monster's weapons by 1, while they're wholly within 3 of any friendly units with this ability to a minimum of 1. And while this unit has any Awful Hounds, add 2 to the move characteristic of this unit if it's within 18 of monsters that have any wounds allocated to them. So they become movement 8 when they're fighting wounded monsters. And then it's just the monsters. They're basically the same, I'm pretty sure. Their wounds go down because they're not mounted anymore. Yeah, 14 wounds for the Terrorgeist. The Death Shriek's the same as the character one. Gaping Maw Infested, yeah, they're the same. Yep. Same as. Has Loathsome Descent, has Terror. Just like the mounted one. And that's it. All right, Cadaverous Barricade. Let's have a look at the wall and see what changed here. It's terrain, cast on 5, 24-inch range is the same. Grasping Hands. If enemy units within 3 of this terrain feature cannot retreat. In addition, if an enemy starts to move within 3, it gets to go half its distance. It's the same. Weirdly, death models are affected by this. There's no call out saying that death models aren't affected by this spell. After it's set up, the spell, endless spell is treated as a terrain feature that has the Grasping Hands scenery rule, except that it can still be dispelled as if it was an endless spell. Yeah, so you're not immune to the Cadaverous Barricade anymore. Weird. There was a call out in the previous version where you were. The Chalice of Ushoran. Cast on 6, 24-inch range is the same. And then Predatory, it can move 8 and still fly. Soul Stealer. Looks pretty much the same. Keep track of any models slain within 12. End of each turn. Roll a dice for each model that was slain. On a 4+ to commanding, player can heal a wound allocated to Flesh Eater's Court within 12. Or return a slain model with 1 wound. Yeah, it's basically the same. And then the Corpse Mare Stampede, I think, is just going to be... No, it's exactly the same. Except it affects everybody. They all affected everybody. Yep, it's all the same, except the Cadaverous Barricade now affects their own faction, too. All right, the Eternal Throne. Setup, it's defensible, so if you have 7 or less wounds, you can get on top of it. It's a ghoulish landmark. Cannot be affected by any abilities that allow units to ignore Battle Shock test if you're within 12 of it, because it's just scary. And then Ruler of All They Survey, at the start of your noble hero phase, add D3 noble points to any friendly Flesh Eater Court hero that's garrisoning the terrain feature. Yeah, that's how you build up. That's how you build up. It's too bad Ushoran can't go on it, but you can build up the guy that's going to bring back. If you get the Courtier with that that command trait that allows you to bring back guys cheaper, you throw him on the Eternal Throne. You let him just like jack up command or the nobility points or noble deeds points, and yeah, and just start bringing deeds back. or monsters even. So that's it. So we're looking at like 20 mana units of Crypt Ghouls are 160 points. Terrorgeists are 350, and they went up in price a little bit with like the army glow up and stuff like that. Actually, pretty significantly. Terrorgeists went up quite a bit, 55 points actually, and 50 points for the dragon, it looks like. Yeah, they went up quite a bit in points. Gristlegore can take him as battle line still. Nagash is 940, 65. Ushoran's 460. Mounted Terrorgeists are 450 and 440 for the Terrorgeist and Zombie Dragon. Archregent's 150. Cardinal's 120. Ghoul King's 130. Gore Warden's 150. And then the Ghast is 100. The Haunter's 140. The Infernal's 145. The Grand Justice Goremain is 140. The Herald's 100. The Decapitator's 100. I'm surprised they weren't taken as a unit. A lot of armies allow you to do that, take like a Royal Court unit. I feel like they're going to get released that way, and they would have been cool if they could be taken as a unit, kind of like the Gobblepalooza. The Varghulf's 165, Crypt Flayers are 160, Horrors are 130, Crypt Rider 140, Morbeg Knights are 150, and the Beast Flayers are 115. 20 for the Barricade, 50 for the Chalice, and the Stampede is 60. So yeah, a few point changes. Monsters mostly getting more expensive. A couple tweaks here and there. I think the ghouls are pretty much the same. Let's have a look at ghouls. Because you can take them in 10s before. Now you have to take them in 20s. Okay, that's why. So basically what they've done is they've forced you to take 20 man units of ghouls so that you can't just take cheapo 80 point units of ghouls and then pad everything out in monsters. It's kind of putting the infantry back in the army unless you're specifically playing a Gristlegore army, which there's no reason not to. So it kind of affects things, but also kind of doesn't, in that you can just take those guys as battle line anyway. They're not required to take Crypt Ghouls. I can see why they're not letting you take 80 point units to just stand on objectives anymore though, because 10 Crypt Ghouls are pretty hard to shift off of an objective, especially if they can heal or if you have something nearby that can throw nobility points on them to bring guys back. But overall, man, I see what they're doing here. I love this book. I love everything dark and thematic about this book. And I'm so glad that this army is getting this treatment. I think they added just the right number of units. I think there's just the right amount of like special rules to encourage you to make different kinds of armies, 4 different kinds of armies, leading into the different stuff, like the Knights for one, the Serfs for the other, the Monsters for the third one, Priests and Wizards, I guess, for the last one. It's just, I don't know. It feels really cool. I think it thematically is a very Warhammer thing, this army. And this didn't exist in old Warhammer Fantasy Battle in this way. There was like stories about it, but there wasn't like a fallen knightly army in the way that this one is like clearly supposed to be what it's supposed to be. So I think this is probably gonna be my New Year, New Army for this year, for 2024. For Age of Sigmar, and I'm stoked to paint it. So big thanks for watching. Big thanks for Workshop sending along the book in the box to review. Thanks, Mash. Happy gaming.